Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Terri Cole Show. So, I want to start with a question. Do you know what you need? Like in your life, in all the areas, in all the categories of your life, are you aware of your own needs? Because I find that, especially with high functioning women and high functioning codependents, that our needs tend to be hard to identify for many of us. So that's what this entire episode is going to be about, talking about your needs, because it may sound simple, right? But it's actually the root of so much burnout, resentment, disconnection, anxiety that we experience is by not understanding what our needs are. And more specifically, what happens when your needs, and you're in a high functioning codependent, what happens to your needs? Where do they go? Well, if you look at it from the point of view of like, okay, people are capable and reliable, everyone counts on you, but there's a real chance that you're great at meeting other people's needs and maybe kind of disconnected from your own. So that is what this episode is all about. I thank you so much for spending time with me. I'm so happy that you're here. Before we get into it, if you are new to the YouTube channel, make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you get notified every time I roll out something new, which is every Tuesday. I appreciate you being here. Let's move it on into today's content. So, why high-functioning women don't know what their needs are and how to start. That's basically what we're talking about today. And again, this may sound simple, like needs. I'm great at identifying needs. Well, let's really think about that. Are you great at identifying your own needs? Or are you great at identifying other people's needs? And you might even be really disconnected from your own. So today, I'm going to walk you through how to reconnect with your needs using this particular framework that I figured out. And really, you can start honoring your needs. And this is actually doable in your real life. Little by little, next right action after next right action. So let's just establish high functioning, what this means. High functioning codependency, we know this. It's not about being weak. It's not about being incapable. And in fact, it's the opposite of that. It's when you're so good at managing, anticipating, and delivering for other people that it becomes automatic. So we expect it from ourselves and other people expect it from us too. A lot of times when you're an HFC, you walk into a room and you can feel what other people need, right? We adjust, we accommodate, we fix, we offer advice, we do all the things. This always turned outwards though, right? So when you think about it, over all the years that you've been doing this, there's a lot of outward focus and less inward focus. So if I asked you right now, what did you need, let's say this week, would you be able to tell me? Right? In my therapy practice, a lot of my HFCs will freeze if I ask them that, or give me a list of responsibilities, right? Instead of needs, they'll tell me things they have to get done. And I'm like, that's not the same thing. But why is this? Well, because for many of us, our needs were never centered, right? They were never the thing that we built our lives around, right? And listen, growing up in different scenarios, maybe it wasn't safe to have needs. That's a distinct possibility. Sometimes this lack of having needs was modeled by the adults who raised us, right? I saw a lot of that. I didn't never even enter my mind that my mother had needs. I remember when we were in our teen years, my mother's partner, my mother had made dinner, set the table, made dinner. We came down and ate, and then all of us, all four of us were there, and we were all getting up to leave. And my mother's long-term partner was like, "Are any of you going to do the dishes? Are any of you going to help your mother?" And my mother never asked us to help or to do anything, so I really didn't even understand that was a need. And I felt so guilty after that. And I mean, good for him for saying something to us. And it did sort of shift the dynamic in the family. But anyway, long way around the barn to just say that I had a mother who modeled not having a lot of needs and certainly not centering herself or her needs. So I come by my own high functioning codependency, honestly, And think about it. Sometimes in childhood, especially, we would get rewarded for not having needs, right? So if that was your situation, the more self-contained you were, kind of the better. It would make sense that you were not attached to your needs right now, today. So I'm giving you a checklist, right? So I created a needs list that you can use. So when you look at a needs list, this should be like a mirror for you. So what are some of the categories that we'll be talking about? Safety, fulfillment, connection, relatability, emotion, self-love, like autonomy, spirituality, like what do we need? So you're going to look at those lists as something that can give you data and information about yourself, because it can show you where you feel fulfilled and where you might be running on empty, right? By looking at it. It helps you, though, when we start to prioritize our needs, what are we really doing is we're rebuilding a better relationship with ourselves. Because it's really hard to have a good relationship with yourself if you are endlessly self-abandoning. And if you only have a passing understanding of what your needs are, you are self-abandoning. Because to not be self-abandoning, we need to be prioritizing having our needs met. And as high-functioning codependents, right, why do we override our needs? And we do. So let's look at how, right? We tend to override what we need in a few different ways. We can either minimize what we need by being like, it's no big deal. We can delay. I was the queen of doing this when I was younger. We can delay our needs getting fulfilled, saying, I'll deal with it later. It'll happen later. Or you can outsource your needs and being like minimizing your needs because you are prioritizing someone else. Like, I'll feel better if they get what they need, basically. And it's that theory that if you're okay, then I can be okay. And this is for all codependents, right? It's not just high functioning codependency. It's garden variety codependency as well, where we're looking to other people. If they're okay, then maybe I'll be okay too. So what is the cost of that is what we need to look at. Well, resentment, it can cause anxiety, disconnection from yourself, because what is happening for the nervous system, right, is that we're constantly working, especially as HFCs, there's a lot of hypervigilance in our life, but we're not nourishing, we're not pouring into, right? When you're not in touch with your needs, you're not replenishing you're not resourcing yourself. And what happens there? Sooner or later, burnout, we're completely depleted, we're exhausted, we're angry. So in the guide, I'm giving you the needs list. So here's how I want you to use it, right? We're not doing this all at once, right? We're doing it basically one list at a time. And just noticing, right? Pick 2 or 3 categories. Right now, you can pick, let's say, safety. So the question is, what is your need for safety? What do you need? Well, we have the basics: shelter, food, water, sleep and rest, financial stability, and comfort. And there's gonna be places on the needs list for you to add your own needs, because we're all different. We all have different needs. If you don't get those needs met, what happens? You don't feel, it's like there's no way to feel optimal. So if you're looking at the emotional needs, right, you might need more connection, or you might need more autonomy. And I think that you can make it easier by saying, where am I satisfied and where am I depleted? When you actually look at the list themselves in the guide, just go to terricole.com/guide to get it, because your body knows what you need. What I want this episode of the Terri Cole Show to do for you is to inspire you to slow down enough to start specifically and intentionally fulfilling your own needs on a regular basis. If we look at connection, what do we need? Well, we have love, we have community, we have a need to belong, intimacy and closeness, friendship, companionship, shared values, mutual care, right? Inclusion. Like, we need to belong. That is a part of our needs. But when you look at these lists, your body is going to tell you, right? Do you feel a tightness or a heaviness or irritation or fatigue, or do you feel something else? Because all of what your body is telling you, these are signals of what is happening for you. And we have to pay attention to those signals. So let's highlight a couple of key categories when it comes to need that I see coming up and having as a problem often with high functioning women. So emotional needs. So things like a need to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel understood. Often HFCs are the perennial listeners in relationships, right? We may be auto advice giving to fix something, but generally speaking, people think if I have a problem, I can call you, right? If I have a problem, you will listen. So you have to ask yourself, when was the last time you felt deeply heard, right? Like actually understood by another person. Because when we don't feel deeply heard or known accurately, this is where resentment builds. When we're such good listeners, it's almost like we're giving what we're not receiving. And that really does create resentment. So what do we want? We want to let you be known, right? It's important that we are known in our lives, even if it feels uncomfortable. And I think that the vulnerability aspect for high functioning codependence in particular is a real block to doing some of these things and prioritizing our needs. Because along with prioritizing those needs comes a built-in, baked-in vulnerability with doing that. You might have a need for autonomy, right? So what is that? Independence, more choice, alone time, privacy, and we all need them, right? It's just a question of how much do you need them, because we're all different. So this is a big one, because as HFCs, a lot of times we're super available to other people. We're the friend that people can call at 4 a.m, right? We're responsive, we're responsible, we're reliable, and autonomy requires space. So there's something really interesting when you start to fulfill that need, how for me, creating more space for myself, being less available to everyone else as I got into recovery from being a high functioning codependent, it was incredible how much my creativity got amped up. That you need space to be creative, to be sort of thinking your best, to relax, to restore, to pour back in. And for me, I really, because I grew up with sisters and I have close friends, and I was always such a group girl that it really, I had to be intentional about having more autonomy. But and this was decades ago, of course, because I'm already 62. But I cannot tell you how much it changed my life. And, a lot of this, you guys know, because I talk about this, like, what is this required? What is required of us? A lot of times it means disappointing someone else, saying no to something that they want you to do so that you can have the time that you need. And this is self-honoring stuff. It's important. Another one of the key areas of needs is connection, right? We were talking before, love, community, friendship, shared values. So here's the paradox for HFCs, though. Sometimes you can have a lot of relationships and yet feel and be lonely, because how authentic are we being in those relationships? Have we let people really know who we are? What version are we showing up as? Are we always on? Are we always helpful, right? Are we always composed? Do we always have it together? And if that's the case, it feels unsatisfying, right? This is how, when people talk about you could be in a relationship and be with people all the time and still feel lonely. Why is that? Because real connection requires vulnerability. And if you're only showing a part of yourself to those people, it won't be as satisfying as it is when people really know you. And listen, it can feel risky to be vulnerable, but it's so incredibly important. And voluntary vulnerability, many of you know that's what I talk about. So I'm not saying vulnerable to everyone, but I am saying vulnerable in your most important relationships, because this is the only way that you'll ever be authentically known. And in the area, back to the needs list, in the area of self-love and self-consideration, you may need self-compassion. You definitely need self-respect. You need self-trust. And listen, self-love, I talk about this quite a bit, can really feel like this abstract concept where it's like, what does this even mean? So I talk a lot more about self-consideration because this is actionable, right? In every decision, I want you to be considering yourself in those decisions, right? Rather than automatically organizing your life around what other people want from you or say they need from you. Because every time you override yourself, you reinforce the idea that your needs are not as important as other people's needs. And they are, but you have to think they are in order for you to live a life that says they are. Another area of needs is safety and rest. And this is another area that I feel like HFCs, we can really fall down in this area, right? So this includes sleep, financial stability, comfort, peace. But many HFCs are chronically dysregulated and we don't even realize it. Again, why is that? Because when we're exhausted, we still find a way to push through, right? We may feel overwhelmed, but there's this tendency to keep on going, right? So we have to change our minds when it comes to needs and when it comes to rest in particular. Rest cannot be viewed as a reward. It has got to be seen as a real requirement. Because you know this, you guys, if you don't give it to yourself willingly and lovingly, your body will eventually make it happen. Whether for me, the universe pushed me down a flight of cancer stairs in my early 30s, which really changed my relationship to rest and restoring and health. But there's all different ways that if we don't listen to the subtle cues that we need to rest more, the universe will find a way to make us rest more. So here's a simple practice that I want you to take away with you, something that you can start this week. At the end of the day, you just ask yourself, what did I need today that I didn't give myself? Right? And this is not to make you wrong. It's just for you to notice. I want you to start thinking in this way. Patterns. What are the patterns of behavior? Where are you self-abandoning? No judging, no fixing. And then we can course correct the next day. What is one small way that I can honor that need tomorrow? Because it is always small steps that create sustainable change. And this situation around your needs is no different. So if you take nothing else from this episode, let it be this. Your needs are not the problem. Ignoring your needs, that is the problem. You're allowed to have needs. You're allowed to prioritize them. And learning to do that will not disconnect you from others. And I think with HFCs, that's a big fear, that that's what it will do, but it doesn't. It actually creates more honest, sustainable relationships, which you want. So to get all the information, I put it all in the guide for you. Go to terricole.com/guide. If you love this, if this is the type of work that really gets you going and really gets you inspired and motivated, I think you would love the Terri Cole community. So just go to terricole.com/TCM. It's a weekly membership where we're always talking about stuff like this. I hope this episode added value to your life and inspired you in some way. And if it did, and you know someone who could use to be more attuned to their own needs, please share this episode with them. I hope you guys have the most amazing week. And as always, take care of you.